The Italian tour continues here as the Autobahn series hops from Imola to Monza. While it shares the same country, the same fervent tifosi, and even the same number of chicanes as Imola, the Temple of Speed couldn't be more different. Far fewer twists and turns, far less elevation change, and a whole lot more in the way of drafting opportunities means that this circuit is ironically less about raw speed and more about strategic prowess. Will any of our competitors be able to use this unique circuit to turn the tides of their championship? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the LMP1 and LMP2 classes is Samuel Ryman. Keeping us up on the GTE class is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, Monza has fans worldwide, but we always get at least a few viewers who are new to racing, so why don't you give us the skinny on Ferrari's home track?
Yes, indeed, and welcome everyone to Monza. Opened in 1922, the current configuration of a 3.6 mile or 5.7 kilometer track, 11 turns, is by far one of the most high-speed circuits that anyone can ever imagine watching here in Italy. Mostly we see Formula 1, but sports car racing has made its stamp here at Monza with the European Le Mans Series and the Blancpain World Challenge European Series. Monza is by far a fan favorite. To give you, the fan, the opportunity to see what it is like to drive here on this famous and historic track, let us go on board with a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Monza. Down the pit straight, you'll come up to Rettifilo with a huge amount of speed. Expect the draft to allow drivers a good chance to attack into here. But it'll be tricky to nail the braking, especially if you're trying to take it that couple feet farther. It's not uncommon to see drivers take a cut course penalty here. Stay off those large curves, get the power down, and now you're on your way towards Curva Grande. There's nothing much to this corner in a modern GT car. Just hug the inside to make it the shortest distance possible. However, once again, because of the speeds you'll reach, the driver behind could find the slipstream and then attempt to overtake in Della Roggia. But just like the first chicane, there's a big danger in either cutting the chicane itself or taking way too much curb by getting greedy. Both will be costly. After that, you've got a short blast to the first Lesmo. It's always tempting to turn in too early to this corner, but if you do that, you'll probably just understeer off on the exit. There's not a terribly long straight down to the second Lesmo, so it'll be rare to see passes into here despite being the sharper of the two corners. Besides, it's much more important to get yourself a good launch because it's another long run down to Ascari. This last chicane is unique compared to the other two in the way it has 3 apexes and is taken quite a bit faster. The shallow curbs are fine, but avoid those black and yellow pills, which can actually damage the car if you're not careful. Another good corner exit is important, but this time, pass attempts into Parabolica might be a bit more rare. There isn't quite as much braking into here as some of the other corners, and it's also smarter to just wait until the front stretch to utilize the draft. This 180-degree bend really opens up on the exit, so you'll get back on the throttle earlier than you expect. And that'll be really important to keep yourself from getting swamped by everyone else who found the power sooner than you. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around Monza. There's the high speeds and long straights of Monza, Italy. Obviously, it's a little bit different lighting here during qualifying. It's going to change once again once they switch over to the race session. Right now, they're racing in the morning time, and, well, it's certainly not morning on the championship. Instead, it's starting to be the sunset. They're getting towards the end of things. So, starting off with the LMP1s, we won't have graphics for you quite today, but we will read out the points to you. Jason DeVries is 16 points ahead of Cy Andra, who is in second place in that LMP1 championship. Those two are really your main contenders at this point. Mike Young holds down third, tied with Daniel Ralti at the moment. And then fifth is Robert Tinsey. Bob the Blade really isn't making as serious as of an attempt on the championship this year. He's just coming out for fun, and his schedule does not conflict. Of course, Sam covering the LMP1s and LMP2s today. Let's go to him to find out where things are for that championship.
Yeah, still pretty close at the top of LMP2. Jason Gerard has a 20-point lead over Scott McGarvey. Billy Smith also not too far back. He has 209 points to Jason Gerard's a top score of 248. Ross Booth sitting just shy of the 200 mark. He has 199 points down in 4th place. And then you get to Mark Schindel, who at 170 points is quite far back of our points leaders, but still has a good battle going on there around 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way back to about 8th in the standings there. Quite tight.
And then covering the GTE classes, we've got 2 of them technically, a Pro and an M. Let's check in with Taylor to see where that stands.
Well, I tell you what, the GTE Pro category is by far really close between the top 2. Currently leading your point standings with 216 points is going to be Stephen McGarvey. He holds a 3-point lead over Paul Darling. Behind them, 191 points currently is Bradley Haley, followed by Alex Simonek, one of our most winningest drivers in the GTE Pro, but still far back with 159 points only. And then rounding out your GTE Pro category is going to be Dean Mole with 142 points. However, in GTE AM, that race is pretty much only one-sided currently right now, with Paul Lindsay right now a 28-point lead over Kevin Santana, while Samuel Scott and Emmanuel Igeri battle it out for the 3rd position, as those 2 are currently 3rd and 4th. Rounding out your top 5 in the GTE AM is going to be Tim McLeish. He's currently holding on to that final spot with 57 points. But Joe, let's give a little more race details on what tonight's race is going to be for us.
Well, before we do that, we have the team's championship to go over. And that is being led by SRN Motorsports Black. Gralty, McGarvey, and Huff are racing for them. And it is only 8 points, or excuse me, not 8 points. It is actually 38 points, between 28 points, I should say, between SRN Motorsports Black and TMC Racing back there in 2nd. They have Cancian, Booth, and Hill on their team. 3rd place goes to TMC Carbon, about 20 or so more points back. DeVries, Schindel, and Owens obviously contributing their DeVries probably the most of any of them. SRN Motorsports Orange races in 4th, so 2 SRN and 2 TMC, and then that's broken up by 5th place, Autobahn Motorsports West, the only one that isn't TMC or SRN, running in 5th with 464 points. The closest fight for that 4th place, 3 points separating them, of course. And now we can go to the race details. So taking a look at what that includes. Sam, what do we have today on our schedule?
Well, as you mentioned, Joe, we're quite deep into season number 7 right now. We're at round 10 of 14. You only get 2 drop weeks throughout the season. And today's race, rather short one as far as sports car races are concerned, just an hour long. And you know what, though? They're still going to cover a lot of miles in that time. I mean, even Formula 1 races that are always scheduled to be about 200 miles, the Italian Grand Prix always flies by because of a high average speed you have that you're carrying around this circuit. Setups are open, but they are restricted on fuel. That, of course, creates a little bit of strategy throughout the race, and we saw that rear its ugly head just a couple of weeks ago at Imola. And there is an incident cap of 24 incident points. However, that's not the big concern you've got to worry about here, Joe. The easiest way to collect incident points at Monza is to overshoot the chicanes, but it's not the incident point you've got to be worried about if you do get one of these chicanes wrong. It's a slowdown penalty that you're going to get as a result.
Absolutely, and I have a feeling we're going to see a few drivers run afoul of that today. Now, before we get to qualifying, which is finishing up here in a moment, Taylor has our usual keys to the race. What the drivers have to do to get a win today?
One of the things that drivers will have to keep an eye on is making sure they have the proper setup. Here at Monza, it is a high-speed track, so downforce will be your friend. Also utilizing the drafting to help you make passes as well as catching up to your competition. Another thing we were just talking about is these chicanes here. Just about as many as they are at Imola that we were not too long ago. This place is just got to be so careful, especially through our chicanes. Especially not overshooting them to where, 1, you get that cut course penalty, or 2, if you notice right there as we ride off over with Bradley Haley, you notice those bumps that could actually upset the car or even damage it if you go over them too many times. And then finally, of course, is going to be pit stop strategies. This track is over 3 miles long, so this gives drivers the opportunity to maybe pit a little early in order to maybe leapfrog their competition or undercut them later on in the race. So, Joe, this is going to be quite the interesting race to keep an eye on here tonight at Monza.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how things will play out with the fuel that Sam mentioned. This is a lot more thirsty track than Imola, so I expect that I don't think anybody should be able to get to the end on one stop here today. I wonder if we'll see some alternate strategies with drivers just abandoning going with a late splash and dash and splitting it up evenly as we watch Christopher Sherburne here in the last chance qualifying. You may have noticed there's very few cars out on the track qualifying. Well, that's because they do a mixed class qualifying here at the very end for 15 minutes. And that is because the other classes, all three classes, have their own set qualifying for 15 minutes each, the GTEs, the LMP2s, and the LMP1s. And if you can't make that set time, well, you can hop in here for what they call the last chance qualifying for the last 15 minutes. However, you cannot put your car on the track if you have turned a lap or even exited the pits simply during any of the set qualifying times, just to keep people from trying to game the system. So only 4 minutes left on that. Now, Taylor, one thing that I found really intriguing when I was looking through the points and also watching last race as I was studying up to get back up to speed for this round, that GTE Pro Championship, not only is it tight in the points, but the bizarre thing is the two drivers leading only have one win apiece. There's 2 wins between our top 2, and we're 9 rounds into this thing at this point. That is astonishing to me.
It just shows you that consistency is key. You could be winning just about every single race or every other race, but yet if you not capitalize on that next race or keep that momentum going to where either 1, you miss it, or 2, you are either wrecked out or have a bad pit stop to where it costs you positions, those wins are not really going to help you in the long run. So Starling as well as McGarvey, these ones have been chumming in week after week, putting those points up, getting those top 5s, top 3s, and the win that they both have to help them to keep themselves in those top 2. So it just shows consistency is the biggest key right now for the GTE Pro.
Certainly could prove to be helpful. So we watch Bradley Haley, who, Sam, you got to witness something that I've been waiting for all season long. He finally got his first win last round at Imola. It took him long enough. He's usually a championship contender, but this year he's been struggling behind a little bit. But we've also seen a bit of the same from Andra this season up in the LMP1s. He had 2 wins, and then now it's suddenly swung back in favor of De Vries up in the LMP1s. Do you think De Vries is going to continue to carry that on, or do you think that Sai can fight back, having learned what not to do with the fuel?
Yeah, we'll see if Sai can come back. I mean, obviously, he still had a great performance at Imola. It just didn't work out for him in the long run. I am curious to see how Bradley Haley will fare in the GTE Pro race today, because, you know, once you get that monkey off your back, it becomes a bit easier to get more wins in the upcoming races. You know, once you get one, you can kind of build on that momentum, and that might be something the rest of the competition has to worry about. And of course, Bradley Haley is one of our very few cars who has opted to take, who is on track right now in LCQ. And I think a reason we see so fewer cars out here right now, Joe, is this is the first time this qualifying format is being used with dynamic weather. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, you say it's a morning session, well, it's not as early in the morning anymore. The drivers who are going in this LCQ at the end of the session, they have a hotter racetrack, and I think maybe that could be part of the reason we see Bradley Haley over half a second back of our provisional GTE pole sitter, Alex Simonek.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well between Simonek and Haley, of course, as yeah, he's really going to have to hustle. Actually, no, looking at it, did his last lap set it faster? He's actually half a tenth back now. So he's cut that down significantly. It is 3/10, though, from Haley to Darling. So Simonic and Haley look like they're going to be potentially the ones to beat here after the green flag falls. It depends on if they can hold up that race pace all throughout the 1 hour race we have. Qualifying is just about over, and I'm not sure that we'll get anybody really changing it. Christopher Sherburne won't change his because he just had an off track, and it looks like our one LMP1, Brandon Garcia, has left the track. So with Christopher Sherburne being done, and it looks like actually our last driver, Haley, has exited. So let's go through our starting grid. On the pole in the LMP1s, it is Jason DeVries leading the way. Cy Andra will be P2, starting on that front row. The two title contenders looking to slug it out again. Mike Young, who has taken advantage of the lack of attendance lately, has been getting podiums here and there. Well, he's starting from third. Let's see if he can finish there. Brandon Garcia will be fourth, with Daniel Gralty starting from fifth position. He's been kind of a guy that is consistent to the end and picks up results that way. Lionel Duprat will be P6, and then Mark Wilson starts in seventh here today. Sam?
Billy Smith will be rolling off from pole in LMP2, 8th overall, and behind him will be Scott McGarvey and Carter Condiner. Ross Booth and Scott Corbin round out the top 5 in that class. Sheldon Rosenbaum sits 6th in class, but even he is only about 0.8 of a second back of the class pole sitter Billy Smith. Behind Rosenbaum will be James Stacey and Mark Schindel. Kevin O'Keefe, Sean Reese and Alan Hessebeck round out the LMP2 field.
Starting on your pole position in the GTE category will be Alex Simonic. Right beside him will be Bradley Haley, starting in the 2nd position. Starting in the 3rd position in the GTE will be Paul Darling, followed by Stephen McGarvey. He'll be 22nd overall. 23rd overall will be Ryan Huff, and Kevin Santana will be right beside him, starting in the 6th position in class. Dallas Pataska in that number 4. He'll be starting 25th overall. Right beside him, Paul Lindsay, your points leader in the GTE AM. David Hill will start in the 27th position, followed by Dean Moll. Leif Peterson in 29th position, followed by Samuel Scott in 30th. 31st is Mark Kradowski, followed by Emmanuel Agiri in 32nd. 33rd position will be Matt Owens, followed by Christopher Sherburne. 35th and 36th will go to Dale Green and Robert Shalenka, and Tim McLeish will round out your 37-car field.
So not a huge field, but a decent amount, especially this far into the season as the cars now start to grid up. And the time has indeed changed. I know it's still very much the golden hour, but it's at the opposite end of the day. It has switched over to 3:30. Obviously, this being pretty late in the year, set in December. 3:30 virtual standard time here in Italy has the sun already pretty far down. And you can see they're not going to do a full pace lap here around Monza on iRacing. They only make you start before the Ascari chicane so that we don't have to wait too long to enjoy all the racing for 60 minutes here in round 10 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Of course comes the tradition here with AMGSC. Sam, you get first pick on who you think is going to win today.
Which class are you giving me?
Usually Bill picks both LMP1s and LMP2s.
No, Bill's talented. Okay. I don't think fuel is going to be as much of a concern as it was at Imola. I'm pretty sure with the amount of fuel you burn on the long straights down here, it's going to be a two-stopper. I think Cyandra, only being a couple more tenths back of Jason DeVries, is going to have some redemption here and take home the victory. Billy Smith. He is on pole there in LMP2. Is he going to win it? I don't have any reason to say why not. Okay, let's go Cyandra and Billy Smith.
Taylor?
Well, you can't go wrong with Bradley Haley. He's on a good run right now with a little bit of momentum on his side, but you can't go wrong with the driver who's got the most wins this season, Alex Simonic. This is going to be tough. You know what? I'm going to go with Paul Darling. I think he might have a shot here tonight, so he's in that Ferrari as well here at Italy's home track, with Ferrari's home track. I'm going to go with Paul Darling tonight.
And the cars have taken off behind the roof pace car. Interesting stat about picking Billy Smith to win. He has not won since Sebring. So it's been a while for the 901 to be on the top step of the podium. This would be a great story if he can do it today. Pole certainly puts him in a good position for that. The driver behind him, though, is one to fear because Scott McGarvey, even though he doesn't have a lot of wins this season, he has not finished off the podium in any of the races he's shown up to. The only time that he's taken 0 points or less than podium points here this season is when he simply did not show up to race. So you can see they've split the classes as they head down towards the Parabolica. And then we go racing once the roof pace car peels into the pit lane. Making sure to give themselves the gap so that they don't run over one another in case something happens in the class ahead, because they don't have any full course yellows here in this series on iRacing. Pace car peels in. Control now given to De Vries, and he gets a very good jump as the green flag waves here for round 10 in the AMGSC. Already they are spreading out a ton, these 7 LMP1s, although one car coming from the back very quickly. Max Wilson found himself a fantastic run, and it looks like he's going to pick up another position if he doesn't make contact. Oh, and they do bang doors, but they both get away from it. Let's go to the LMP2s, though.
Billy Smith shoots out like a rocket at the start. Scott McGarvey has other problems. Pressure from behind. Looking down the inside is Ross Booth. He started 4th in class, almost all about 2nd. He gets third. They work their way through the first chicane. They're clean. Taylor.
Alex Simonic gets a great jump down as they head their way down to the first chicane of Retafilios. Right now, side by side, Paul Darling, Stephen McGarvey, your top 2 in the GTE Pro, go side by side as they make their way to the Curva de Gran. Still, Alex Simonic holding on as our 2 Ferraris of Darling and McGarvey still go side by side.
So, pretty clean start for most of the cars, although poor Mark Wilson had more troubles later on and has fallen well back down to the last of the LMP1 cars. As we watch, this battle for third here with Cy Andra being overtaken by Mike Young. We missed that. And now Daniel Gralti is going to try to get around, but looks up the inside of Parabolica. And I think he's maybe got it done. A nice launch off. It's not over yet, though, Sam, and they've got some company coming up behind them in the form of Guardia.
Yeah, not a good start by Cy Andra to this race. Oh, he is dropping down the order. These cars hitting over 190 miles an hour before the braking zone into turn 1. So Gralti ahead of Garcia, ahead of Andra, ahead of Duprat, running 6th.
And indeed, as they work their way around Curva Grande, they're starting to lose touch with all that battling to Mike Young. We've seen him get 3rd places and maybe the occasional 2nd place. Could he challenge De Vries potentially? He's actually staying with him for now. Meanwhile, we've got a battle in the GTEs for 3rd place, as Bradley Haley and Simonic stretch away from them as well.
Yeah, Stephen McGarvey gets utilizing that slipstream. He's going to look to the inside right now as they make their way down back to the Retophilia. It is still McGarvey got the line. Now he's going to hold it and complete the pass. Darling decides to give way, but he's got to worry, though, about Ryan Huff and Kevin Santana. Both of those 2 now are getting onto the back bumper of them as they make their way to the Curva de Grande.
And I think we have problems in LMP2 with Mark Schindel. Is that what you were looking at there?
Mark Schindel, but also Ross Booth, our driver who was running 3rd in LMP2. I think he is the first victim of a slowdown penalty today.
Yep, Ross Booth slots back into 5th, and Schindel all the way down into 11th in his class. There you see Schindel going very slowly still, actually, and I don't think that's due to damage.
Talk about damage, already got a couple of GTEs sitting in the pits. Emmanuel O'Hare and Matt Owens run into trouble, I see.
Didn't quite see what happened with them. We'll see if we can figure that out a little bit later as we watch Guarcia ahead of Daniel Gralti. This is for 3rd position. And they've continued to drop Cy Andre. You can see him way back there on your screen. I'm not sure what is going on with him here, because I don't remember seeing him make contact. Maybe he hit a curb too hard. These cars can suffer damage because of how low slung they are, Sam, but this early in the race, boy, that is going to be a hard hill to climb.
Oh, maybe we've completely undersold how well these cars can go on fuel. Maybe, you know, they can stretch out the 30 minutes, and Andrew is the one person saying, no, I don't want to do what I did last race again, and he's gone into fuel conservation mode. I cannot figure out why he is this far off a pace. Look at him on the straights. Just getting past left and right.
You know, I hadn't considered the fuel aspect, and maybe that is exactly what he's doing. He's trying to make this a one-stopper instead of a two-stopper. If so, he's certainly losing out significantly already. He's nearly 9 seconds back from our overall leader, and we're only 5 minutes in.
And the problem for that strategy here is how much he's given up each lap. Is that even though these cars are carrying a significant amount of speed down the front straight, you think they'd be losing a lot of time in the pits. That's not the case. As far as pit roads go, this is a very short one. You don't lose a whole lot of time making a pit stop here.
So, with the strangeness of the strategy continuing on its way, Andra is all the way back to 7th, the last of the LMP1s still running. Of course, all of them are still running, we should note. Looking back at GTE, since we haven't checked in on them in a while, Simonic still leads, and Haley is giving chase, but he's not terribly close at the moment.
No, right now he's about 6/10 behind right now, while McGarvey is 2 seconds behind in the GTE, but he's still got to worry about Paul Darling as they're making their way back down the front straightaway. Brian Huff doing an excellent job running in the top 5 with Kevin Santana, one of our GTE AM drivers, doing an excellent job. Our GTE AM points leader, Paul Lindsay, did have an off track early on through the Ascari chicanes a lap ago, but was able to recover, did lose multiple positions, but is now working his way back up to the track. As they work their way through the Curve de Grand right now, we do see, as we have Andre in the pits right now.
Ooh, maybe it was damage. If he's in the pits, this is definitely not a one-stop strategy. This is him suffering something on the car. And maybe this is far enough that he could do the two-stop strategy in reverse, maybe.
That would make sense, yeah. If he does have damage, obviously there's got to be some reason he was keeping it out on track.
He's back out again.
By the way,
Wow.
been keeping an eye on the track. Looks like Emmanuel Ehire may have had contact with Paul Lindsay. He was a little... Ooh, we got some dicing coming out on of pit exit here.
Oh, yep, and that's because the LMP1 of Andra has slotted right in the midst of the LMP2s. That's Rosenbaum, and then Corbin was the gray car you saw locking up to try to stay out of the back of the blue car of Rosenbaum. This is for 5th and 6th position. They're also being chased by the machine, the red car of James Stacy behind them. Oh, what a great exit from Corbin. Going on the challenges, they enter the Lesmos, struggling a little bit in the wake, and he loses time. So a good charge goes away slightly for Corbin. He'll have to regroup.
Had a nice battle right now as our leader in LMP1 comes up right now, but Dean Mullen, Dave Hill, those two have been battling it out right now between these two as they make their way through the Curve de Grand, and now it's going to break up just a little bit as the LMP1 leaders make their way through.
Ooh, and they've already caught the back of the field here. This
Yeah,
is usually... Go ahead.
That battle with Hill bunched DeVries and Jan up. Look at our overall leaders right here. Jan is right on the rear wing of DeVries.
I am actually a little bit shocked that Young has as good a pace as he does, because, like I said, he was there to pick up results for this middle part of the season when some of the other drivers have fallen by the wayside, but he's never really challenged the leaders from what I can recall. they get into the thick of this GTE pack, now having a bunch of cars in line have to go by, which is the grouping of Darling and McGarvey fighting for third.
Yeah, well, this is one of those horses for courses circuits, Joe. You know, the racing around Monza is so unique because of the lack of downforce. It isn't unusual to have the drivers who are a bit better here than what they would be elsewhere if they just, you know, have that extra edge on driving these cars with low downforce settings.
So you're saying it's not unusual to fall in love with Monza? So we've got a problem with Duprat happening right now. This is 6th place in the LMP1s. Oh, and he had a bad moment trying to work his way around one of the LMP2s and outbraked himself. You're going to see into Parabolica. He has a hard run-in with the wall.
Oh, and that Monza, when you hit the wall, it's not unusual to see you cry.
He gets it going once again, but he immediately takes it into the pits. And the good news for Cy Andre is he's already been able to get past all of the LMP2s, which couldn't have been fun because he had no blue flags to help him through. There you see the now 6th place driver having overtaken Duprat with his damage getting repaired. He is a whole 34 seconds behind the next car, though, which gives us a good idea of what to look for as far as strategy here, Sam. 34-second bogey time if you have to come in and take a stop.
Yeah, of course, that can always differ based on strategies, although I don't anticipate many people taking tyres today because it's such a short race and not exactly the most abusive circuit of tyres. We got a battle for second that shaped up in LMP2 between Scott McGarvey and Carter Cundin. Right now, McGarvey leading Cundin around, but Cundin is definitely within striking range. We might just be waiting for them to catch the GTE cars, maybe to move them in lap traffic.
Carter just holding on to the back of Scott McGarvey, one of our challengers for the LMP2 championship, but it's been a hard road for him to try and overcome the dominance of Gerard. Thankfully for him, at least, not thankfully for Gerard fans, Jason is not here today, which means an opportunity for Billy Smith as well, who is a current leader in this class. You can see him just ahead there in that green and black machine. This battle going on behind him is for second.
And good news for Lionel Duprat fans, he has already rejoined the racetrack, so fixed whatever damage was on that 18 machine, and now he probably only has to make one more stop.
These LMP1s just have all those replaceable parts, so it doesn't surprise me too much that they were able to whip a new nose onto it and get him back out on track. You can see he's having to deal with a lot of cars. Takes a bunch of curve though there through the De La Roja. Up ahead of him, that battle is for position. That's between Santana and Pataska.
Yes, indeed. Dallas Pataska got a little bit of help as they are now coming through the second Lesmo. He's caught right up to the back end of Kevin Santana. They make their way down this back straightaway towards Ascari. He's going to try to utilize a little bit of slipstream to get right on the back bumper of that green Ferrari. As they now hit the brake zone just about now to make through Ascari. Got to be careful with those curves. That could cause a little bit of damage to the under tray. Through the Ascari, it looks like Santana has a great run coming off of there. Down this little straightaway before they head towards the Parabolica. Really good run for these two. Pataska starting a little bit towards the back of the pack right now. Has not made any major gains right now. But still, Kevin Santana having a great night as he closes in on Paul Lindsay for the GTE and championship.
This will be a nice haul of points considering how much that Lindsay has stretched it out. 28 points between Paul and Kevin. But I'm not sure how long that Kevin's going to be able to hold on to this 6th position, because here comes Dallas Pataska with a good slipstream. He's going to look to the inside, but can he outbrake him? He tries. He's given the inside line. He makes both apexes. Beautiful move by the number 4 machine.
Excellent pass right there for Pataska in that chicane.
Oh.
That chicane is... Oop, has got issue.
The contact in turn 1 between Cy Andre and Paul Lindsay. Paul Lindsay and Mark Kudrowski have been racing each other hard, and I think Lindsay was more focused on him than Andre, and as they went into the first corner, he just turned in and got right into the side of our LMP1 car.
Looking at it, though, it looks like Andre outbraked himself a little bit. because he didn't turn in when you would usually expect. So I don't know that I really put that one on Lindsay there.
Wide into that chicane is not a good idea either.
You can see from that onboard just the car just did not turn in when you approached that apex. So more damage to the car of the Wyvern Racing Silver number 24. It has not been his day.
Well, it's one thing you've always got to be concerned about when you're on an alternate strategy is you've got to take every opportunity you get, because you don't necessarily know how well your competition is doing. You know, you can't see them out there on the track, so anytime you do see an opportunity, you kind of want to go for it, just to know you're not losing out as much time.
He's trying to go for it, but it has been hard swimming for that number 24. Jumping down back to the GTEs, where we've got most of our close battles. Pataska managed to get past Santana, but he's not been able to shake him. This is, again, still for that 6th position.
Yes, indeed. Santana got really close to the back bumper of Pataska as they make their way through the Retafilio chicane, now working their way through the Curva Grande towards Della Rocha. Pataska gets a great run right now as they're closing in, going under the bridge before Della Rocha. Still, Pataska is holding on as he jumps the curb a little bit. You got to be careful not to get that cut course penalty. Santana didn't just go through it quite too well, it seems like. Wondering if there's any issues. But right behind them, that battle between Mole and Dave Hill as they're going through the first Lesmo, that battle has not given up yet. These two still have been battling nose to tail for multiple laps as they go right now to the second Lesmo down this back straightaway towards Ascari.
This is for 8th position. Hill in the number 13, Mole in the number 79. You can see them working their way down towards Ascari, and Mole isn't going to be close enough. Still working on it, although he looks fantastic on the brakes and really closes ground. You can see it's getting pretty dark already here with it being in the middle of the winter months.
This is quite exciting right now. Who knows? We could maybe, before it's said and done, get it to where it's a little bit darker, to where those headlights will possibly come into play. But right now, it's still a great battle between these two of Hill and Dean Mole.
In fact, pretty much perfect track conditions for these drivers. 83 degrees, which is relatively cool. So they should be getting quite a bit of grip out on the circuit for the moment. Still not another chance for Mole as they break for the first chicane one more time. Dave Hill just holding him at bay in that blue and red Ford GT.
Got a little bit of things to worry about right now as we see the LMP2 leaders now making their way as they're coming through the Curva de Gran towards Della Rocha. So that will be another factor that these GTE drivers will now have to face.
Yep, they've got Billy Smith right on the back of them. He's waiting patiently. Doesn't have a challenge from McGarvey right now. He's managed to split himself from him by 4.5 seconds. So he can wait patiently if need be. Now he's going to get both of them braking later than those GTE cars into the second Lesmo. So we've been keeping half an eye on our LMP1 leaders and what Mike Young has been doing. He isn't right on top of Jason DeVries, but he is still 1 second behind, which is not a lot, especially with what we've seen in traffic in this series, Sam. It seems like that can disappear very quickly.
It can disappear and it can appear very quickly. Likewise, I've been keeping half an eye on the battle for second in LMP2 between Scott McGarvey and Carter Cundiner. Remember, they were nose to tail a little bit ago, but Carter Cundiner had a harder time getting through the lap traffic. So now that battle's spread out a couple of seconds. But again, I expect it to reform just because that's the way sports car endurance or any kind of multi-class racing works. You know, anytime you're within a couple of seconds of the car in front, it can change your back and forth within a couple of laps.
Certainly could, as we watch Mike Young work down the front stretch, trying to outbrake the car of Mark Godrowski, and he does successfully. Getting himself a little bit of clear space now. Now, in the GTEs, things getting very, very close. Haley's got that gap down to 0.3 of a second.
Yes, indeed. It looks like Simonic had a little bit of an off through the De La Rocha chicanes as they're making their way past Lesmos down towards Ascari. Simonic was able to pull away just a little bit, but right now Haley sensing a little bit of blood in the water. Maybe Simonic with that mistake. Haley is now going to push a little bit more through the Ascari chicanes. Both of them doing excellent jobs of keeping off those curves as we see Simonic go a little bit off, but still able to recover and start to pull another gap over Bradley Haley towards the Parabolica. As we ride on board
with Bradley Haley, yeah, who has really been giving Simonic something to think about. This is very cool to see between these two. Haley, who we know has been looking for redemption to turn this championship around. Simonic, who has taken multiple wins but has had a yo-yo of a season, just up and down, can't seem to get consistent results. And could this be another case where he finds himself lacking right when he needs it? Haley isn't mathematically out of this championship, but it's going to take a phenomenal effort, and this is the sort of effort we're seeing from him right now.
If you just go back to where you see McGarvey as well as Paul Darling, those two still have not given up. These two have been battling pretty much for the entire race. McGarvey's still leading, and this is our battle between our two.
Oh, we got contact between two of our LMP2s, Stacy and Rosenbaum, and that causes actually one of the other LMP2s behind them to take evasive action. Schindel cuts the course, and getting ahead of them, that was Daniel Gralti in the LMP1s. Let's take a look at the replay on that one since we came in just as they came together.
Yeah, well, Rosenbaum had had a bad lap prior. He had had a bit of an off course, and I wonder if that's why Stacey was, you know, he was sensing, smelling blood in the water himself and locked up on the inside there. That was definitely Stacey outbraking himself. But boy, Schindel had a couple of scary moments on down the front straight before they ever got up to turn one, where he overshot turn one, because he was almost having side-to-side, wheel-to-wheel contact with a couple of GTE cars, and that would have been very ugly. And now look, Stacey's off the pace. He must be serving some kind of slowdown, because a lot of cars blasting by him on down the straight towards the sky.
Indeed, he lost out to Mark Schindel. He lost out to Rosenbaum. That now puts the 07 in at 7th. And he's got one more coming up behind him, but that is an LMP1, Mark Wilson, who is able to get by easily. In fact, they're going to see all three classes in one corner here in a second because they've got Leif Peterson in 10th, and the GTEs who's going to try and stay out of the way. Thankfully does not interrupt this battle.
Yes, all three of these drivers having a rough time. That allows Ross Bruce, 4th in class, to pull away from them a bit. Kevin O'Keefe is the driver behind these for position. He's a bit further on back down the road though. So Rosenbaum, Schindel and Stacey, their car's looking a bit worse for wear, but you know, no one close in front of them, no one close behind them. So, and now we got more action on track.
Yep, yes, Bataska very, very close to Ryan Huff there, Taylor. And beautiful there. Oh, and he's got a slowdown.
Yeah, he got that slowdown as they went through De La Rocha. He went a little bit over that curbing just too much, but he had been closing in all over the back of Ryan Huff, was right there to that mistake.
Now, you've driven with Dallas quite a bit as we watch this replay. I'm kind of surprised from my previous experience that he's not racing as higher than he is right now.
No, it's probably a little bit too, but right now still, though, compared to what we usually see, he's actually working his way up, taking his time, and soon will be up towards the front.
As we come back live, Bataska still in 6th, but now 1.1 seconds back from Huff. And I think, well, I was going to say we had a pass for position, but no, that was Lionel DePratt just working his way through the LMP2s, trying to make up for his repairs from very early in the race. We're very close to the halfway mark. If we start to see cars coming in with about 32, 33 minutes left to go, that to me says we're going to see a lot of splash and dashes towards the end. Meanwhile, Rosenbaum And a nice little battle with Mark Schindel, who just managed to overtake him down the pit straight. But they're coming up to the car of Kevin Santana and the GTEs. They could be held up by him just momentarily. Looks like he's going to get off the corner slightly better so they can swing around the outside of Curva Grande. But don't look now. Here comes James Stacy back into the mix, recovering from his earlier slowdown penalty and looking to take back both spots.
These three are definitely fun to watch as long as they can keep it on the racetrack, and all of them bouncing around a bit there through the chicane, but keep on with great stuff. Well done to all of them. These drivers running 5th, 6th and 7th last.
Stacy probably the worst of those three, having to deal with that traffic. You can see the gap that's split up ahead of him. Rosenbaum still trying to hold on to the back of Mark Schindel under the old oval and into the Ascari chicane. Let's see if either of them can maybe use the brakes a little bit, or this traffic potentially. This is the battle between Pataska and Huff up ahead of them.
Yeah, that battle between Pataska and Huff has still been going on strong, but as we see now, our LMP2 drivers working their way through before they make their way towards the Parabolica. As we see that getting a little bit held up right in front, we see Mark Schindel and as we see Ryan Huff giving away position now. They come down the front straightaway. This is that good time where a lot of these LMP2 cars can easily manage to get by these GTE cars. As we see our GTE cars staying towards the outside of the track as they make their way down towards the Retafilia first chicane. Still not able to close that gap right now at the moment. Dallas Pataska gets laid onto the brakes right now. Gets right up to the back bumper. Let's see if that's going to be a big help for him. Stays still with Ryan Huff coming out of there as they make their way towards the Curva de Grande. Towards the
Curva Grande, yeah. you mostly got it.
I'm trying.
Pataska is right on top of Ryan Huff once again, but last time this happened to Del Roja, he got himself a cut course penalty. Let's see if he's any smoother this time. He is, but can't quite get himself an opportunity to attack.
He's trying to find that right opportunity, trying to get by him. We notice how well he is with that leg braking to help him out as they're going through the second Lesmo, but unfortunately he just cannot seem to make that pass complete. I think he's going to have to wait for Ryan Huff to make a mistake in order for him to get this position and break into the top 5 as he goes to the outside as they make their way toward Ascari. Wow, that's a great run. Had to utilize from the slipstream a little bit.
He certainly seems to be making Huff feel threatened because Huff stayed defensive on the left side of the track a long ways down towards Ascari. It wasn't until very late that he brought himself back to the racing line. A couple more runs like that, maybe he could rattle the number 41 into making a mistake. They come around Parabolica one more time.
As they're giving way now to Cy Andra as he goes underneath. Parabolica can be a little bit of a difficult corner because if you have too much speed going in, you're easily going to wash up that part of the track and go into that green tarmac, which is very difficult to get back down until you're pretty much off of the Parabolica. As he now looks to the inside, showing his nose. They go side by side to the Retafilia. I think he might get it. He's got to complete the second half of that chicane, and I think he will get that position. Move Dallas Pataska up into the 5th position.
Multiple laps of trying, and he's finally got it. Next up the road is 5 seconds to Paul Darling in the 155. Paul doing his traditional slow start, picking up pace, and then being a real threat towards the end of it.
Yeah, Paul's been doing quite well, not really putting a little bit of pressure right now with these LMP2 cars, as McGarvey in front of him has got a little bit of issues with the LMP1 of Cy Andra, as well as the LMP2 driver. So that could help Paul Darling reel back in McGarvey as they're making their way towards Ascari. He's still a couple of seconds now away from him. 1.2 seconds closing down towards Ascari. Paul Darling careful with those curbs not to clip him too much. That could damage an under tray or the diffuser underneath that car. And we do not want to cause that, but that could cause some serious issues with the handling of the car.
Well, not only that, but straight line speed as well, I'm sure. Not something you want to compromise here at Monza. If you're wondering what's going on in the LMP1s and LMP2s, well, we haven't gone to Sam because there just isn't much action over there right now. Everybody seems to be spreading apart.
Well, they're that's the score in itself, Joe, is, you know, the battle for second in LMP2 has broken up, the battle for first in LMP1 has broken up, but the driver hating all this the most, what we're seeing, is Sayandra, because guess what? We've only had one scheduled taker into the pits at halfway, actually now two, Dale Green, and now Sheldon also making his way down pit road. And Santana
pitting as well. We're very, very close to that halfway.
Yeah, this, you know, might not necessarily be them running it dry. I mean, I have a feeling if that was an issue for these drivers, we would have seen more cars coming in by now. Looks like a lot of them are going to be able to make it to the halfway point.
And Rosenbaum stopped. He pulled out of his pit stall and then halted on the pit lane. Did he maybe forget something? Or I wonder if maybe he forgot to turn on his pit limiter and realized it too late. Well, if he comes back in, it'll be an easy answer to that question. We'll watch and wait to see what the 113 does.
If he comes back in, Joe, it could actually be a penalty for how much of a pit exit line he took just there.
Now, this is true, too. Carter Kundinger comes in from what I believe was third place momentarily ago and slots down the order as he gets his service done. We haven't seen any of the LMP1s in yet. It looks like they've surprisingly been able to make better use of the fuel here than at Imola.
I wonder if that's just because there's a lot less heavy acceleration zones. I mean, I know there's a lot of chicanes, but it's still carrying a good amount of speed to them, whereas Imola, it's kind of got a start-stop feel to it.
This is true. Kundinger returns back to the track now. And
hey, and talk of LMP1 cars, and when they're coming in, Jason DeVries coming down pit road, our overall leader.
Young follows him. Brandon Guarcia also coming in from third. Well, I think we found the limit of how far these cars can go, and it is still a little bit tight. If they were doing fuel saving, they're going to have to do it again just to get to the end, considering they had 1 minute of wiggle room. As each of the cars slowly work their way down towards their stall, Wilson is in. Now, Sayandra had that early stop, but we think that was for damage. Freeze returns to the track. Young out as well. Guarcia in for an unusually long time. He must have had some damage he's trying to repair. Guarcia is also in for a little bit of a long stop, but not terribly long, just 2 seconds longer than Young.
Guarcia gets by Guarcia now. About to say that, well, they're going to come out with relation to Sayandra, but that doesn't matter a whole lot. Andra's ahead of him, but I think he should have to pit again.
And Wilson is out now as well. So basically, we're waiting on the likes of Duprat and Andra to come in again, since we're pretty certain they can't make it all the way to the checkered flag. Our LMP2 drivers now starting to make stops as Alan Haysbeck finds his way down to his team. And pretty much only a small handful of our GTE drivers have stopped. Alan now returning, SRN Motorsports Orange, one of the contributors in our top 5 teams. Not terribly high in the points right now for the LMP2s, but of course, can't recall where he was in position exactly before his pit stop. Our leader in the LMP2s, Scott McGarvey, finds his way down the pit lane. This is our third place driver right now, Mark Schindel. Ross Booth has gone in. Schindel stay out? Nope, he does not. He comes in, and he's going to be followed immediately by James Stacy. Those two have been fighting quite a lot. And keep in mind, they were fighting with Rosenbaum, who is already going by right now. No, Rosenbaum wasn't a lap down, was he? Yeah, Rosenbaum was a lap down. He's got a whole nother lap around to try and catch up to the likes of Schindel. More of our LMP2s. In fact, all of our LMP2s have now come to the pit lane. Not all of them have finished their pit work, but we have all scheduled stops taken place for the LMP2s. Stephen McGarvey from the GTEs, one of our championship contenders, now pulls away from his stall. We will easily come out the highest of our GTE pitters.
So this is Cyandra in for his second stop. And this will pretty much bring back on cycle with the rest of this competition.
I'd be curious to see how far behind he is, though, at this point, after the pit stops are done. And this should be a pretty short stop, I would expect. And it doesn't appear to be. No, actually, I take that back. The other one was his short stop. This is the long stop for him.
Yeah, and also he'll probably want to get full of fuel so he doesn't have a repeat of Imola.
Yeah, certainly doesn't want to cut this one close. Now, he will be well ahead of Lionel Duprat, but as he exits, he is looking a good distance behind the next car up. It is still going to take a monumental effort for Andra to try and recover, and this is bad news in the championship for the number 24 car, because De Vries already leads him in the points.
And De Vries has extended his lead over Mike Young in LMP1 after the cycle pit stops. We'll give you all a full race rundown in a moment. Right now, Ryan Huff making his pit stop.
In fact, we're seeing quite a few of the GTE cars making their stops. Kudrowski is in, Lindsay is in, Peterson coming in. Huff is done with his stop. He is heading out now. Stephen McGarvey going to overtake him. So Huff coming out second of the cars who have pitted, I believe.
This is the time where we will start seeing our front runners now for the GTE class start to make their pit stops, as we see some of those were towards the back as McGarvey's trying his best to catch back up to the rest of the field. Hopefully with this pit stop right now, this could help him to gain back up, as he's currently about 27 seconds back from Dave Hill. So he's got a little bit of work to do right now as we see our GTE leaders now making their way towards the Parabolica. So we'll keep an eye on Alex Simonic, see if he's going to come down pit road. He's just finishing up to the middle part of the Parabolica now. He's going to the inside. I think this is the lap we will see him come in. And let's see if his rival Bradley Haley will follow suit. Yes, indeed. So we have our top two in the race coming in. Paul Darling is the next one to come out of the Parabolica. He is also now going to dive down pit road. Dallas Pataska is also going to follow suit. And finally, we see if any more.
Dave Hill would be the next one. He's sitting in fifth at the moment.
Entering out of the Parabolica, and it will
Yep,
pit.
he's coming in. All right, Alex Simonic is out of his box now. And Bradley Haley, Bradley Haley half a second faster in his pit stall. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be incredibly helpful if he can get back in the slipstream. He was a second and a half back, when they came into the pits. And then once they get up to speed, we'll get a feel for how far back he is out of the pits.
And it looks like things are going to be just about the same as they were before that little incident.
He's about a second closer now. I think Haley had a phenomenal stop. He's put himself back in contention. And actually, this could be important championship-wise because Simonic is behind Haley in the points. So Bradley, even though he's more concerned about the cars ahead, he certainly doesn't want to be caught by Simonic as well. I'm sure he'd love to pull one over on him.
Yes, indeed. Yes, trying to close that gap even more. But I tell you what, though, the battle for third position, Darling and Pataska, that battle's got it heating up, and McGarvey, even with that, with the help of that pit stop early, he is now also closing in on Pataska and Darling as they're now going through the second Lesmo towards the Ascari chicanes.
Now, here's what's interesting, Taylor, is I'm looking at the pit times of everybody around Pataska. I'm seeing 16 seconds, 15 seconds, and so on. Dallas is only 12 seconds. That worries me.
That is a little bit worrying right there. Let's keep an eye on that. Maybe he decided to shorten the fuel, but with 20 minutes left, that's going to be cutting it really close for this race. So we're definitely have to keep an eye as he's going to take a look to the outside of, now back to the inside now, as they make their way towards the Parabolica. Side by side they go. Paul Darling gives way. Give that position as careful. Pataska washes up a little bit. Let's see what happens down the front straightaway. They make their way down towards the Ricophilia chicanes.
I think Darling let him have that one. Look at how quickly he closes with the draft behind him. But he lifts a little bit. Yeah, so he didn't want the spot.
Well, he might be going into some fuel conservation mode now as they go through Ricophilia. McGarvey, though, great run there. Gets right on the back bumper of Paul Darling as they make their way
towards the Curva Grande, and he's certainly caught his way up. Stephen McGarvey, who was a bit farther down, is now glancing at potentially coming away with a podium.
Gotta be careful, though. They both went a little bit off course, and I think Pataska got that cut course penalty. He had to give up 2 positions, lost in just one set of chicanes.
We talked about that at the start of the broadcast. It's going to be critical to this race that you avoid those because it can be so costly. Thankfully, he is still within the slipstream. But now, Stephen McGarvey up into 4th.
If we can go to the lead right...
Go ahead.
Go to the lead in GTE Pro right now. We see Simonic made a mistake going through Ascari. Haley's going to look to the outside before Parabolica. They're going to go almost side by side. Simonic, though, is able to get a little defensive. He washes up just a little bit as Haley goes to the inside. This is going to be the battle for the lead in GTE Pro as they're going down the front straightaway. See if Simonic is going to go a little bit defensive right now. Haley tries to stick his nose underneath, not able to get close enough. As they're going down the front straightaway towards the Ricophilia, he's got a nose right there at the corner. Now he has to brake a little bit early in order to make through the chicane.
Simonic very much staying defensive, running the middle of the track down the pit straight. And Bradley Haley on a charge, carrying that psychological momentum that he earned from the win at Imola, thinking he could get 2 in a row here. Maybe he can turn this championship around, but not close enough up to De La Roja.
No, not able to get close enough at all, but that was an excellent run.
Oh, and McGarvey's got a run here on Darling. He's going to have to go the long way around into De La Roja as a defensive move from Paul Darling. Blocks him off, but he gets as he almost gets into the back of Darling now, trying to carry his speed off that second chicane. He does get a nose in the first Lesmo, but they've got some faster class traffic trying to come through. He's going to have to wait patiently. That is Syandra of all people. Off track goes Darling.
Well, after all that loss of position with Pataska, he's going to close right back in on this battle.
And Daniel Grolty puts it in the wall, exiting the Parabolica from 3rd place, gets going again, but loses that position to Brandon Garcia.
We'll go to that in a second. We've got a hot battle on screen right now. Sorry to interrupt, but Paul Darling in defensive mode, not just from Pataska, but from Stephen McGarvey, because remember, McGarvey and Darling are the ones fighting closely with only 3 points separating the top of the championship.
Yeah, we saw McGarvey get really loose and almost Darling gets his nose taken off by that LMP2 car of Billy Smith through the Parabolica. Pataska on a hard charge now, coming out of the Parabolica. Down the pit straight they go. He's going to utilize the slipstream. Look to the inside. McGarvey still looking on, unable to catch up at the moment as they make their way down to the Red Ophelia chicane side by side. The Ford GT of Pataska, the Ferrari of Darling, side by side, late on the brakes, both of them not giving an inch through the Red Ophelia chicanes. Give that position back to Dallas Pataska. He's got to make his way, though, through the Curva Grad, as well as not to have another cut course through the Red.
And Paul Darling now sees the worst thing he could see in his rearview mirror. It is Stephen McGarvey trying to work his way around. He pokes his nose to the inside. He's got his car a little bit alongside him, but under braking. It swings back in favor of Paul Darling, and they go back line astern. Pataska now in third, Darling in fourth, and Stephen McGarvey in fifth.
This is why I love sports car racing here at Monza. You see great action like this, especially with the chicanes being somewhat of an equalizer for these cars here. Just great racing action.
And let's go back to Sam Gralt. He's got more action going on. Oh,
yeah,
and he's actually
he comes to the pits. He got too much damage. He just lost the rear end of his car, exiting the Parabolica while trying to hold off Brandon Garcia in the battle for third place. Got in the wall at 150 miles an hour, and he's going to have to come in for repairs.
On this, unfortunately, we couldn't switch to it live, that battle that we were happening. Oh, and this is actually Gralty heading into the pits.
Yeah, happened a whole couple of laps ago now, but it does mean Garcia is back up into third position in class.
Good news for Brandon, that's for sure. He's a little bit in no man's land. He's 21 seconds behind Mike Young and 14 seconds ahead of Mark Wilson. So at this point,
look who's coming in the pits now. Sheldon Rosenbaum. He's missing the whole front clip, and he's speeding into pit road. So he obviously has no intention of coming back out the track. That'd be a heck of a penalty.
That was in a Ascari, so that was within, just back up maybe 20 seconds, and we'll see what happened here. I think one of those black and yellow pills, yeah, it did. He launched into the air.
And he will be only the second retirement of this race after Manuel Ojeda. Kind
of shocking that so many cars have been able to get this far, especially with no free repairs in their pocket. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead in the GTE class, the GTE Pro, the 250 of Alex Simonik only has a half-second gap back to Bradley Haley. And with only 13 minutes to go, I'm pretty sure the Comet is going to be hungry to try to swallow him up and spit him out.
Doing his best right now as they're making their way out of the Parabolica. Down the pit straight they go. Great action right now between our GTE Pro leaders as they see Billy Smith making his way back up. He's going to utilize that slipstream to close in a little bit as they make their way towards the Retophilia chicanes. Hard onto the brake, both drivers now. Haley gets right on the back bumper of Simonik. Simonik goes a little bit off course, cuts through the gravel. Careful as they go through the Curva Grande over to De La Rocha. As we see right now, our LMP1 leader, De Vries, is coming into the picture now. That's going to change things up a little bit before they get to the De La Rocha chicanes. Simonik going a little bit onto the following the racing line. Haley tries to peek it into the inside. Through De La Rocha they go. Great run by both of them, not to make sure they get a cut course penalty for both of them. As we see our LMP1 leader, Jason De Vries, closing in.
Jason's got about a 12-second gap over Mike Young in second in this class. So he doesn't really have to put these guys in a compromising position for now. And he's actually going to catch them at an absolutely perfect place. Look at this, on the way down to Ascari, a whole clear bit of track on the right side, and they return to their battle once again, unfazed. Simonik, still your GTE leader. Haley, still second in that class.
Yeah, he went by Samuel Scott. He was in the wall spinning a little bit right there, but was able to continue back on. But the battle for the GTE race is still on. Looking at those lap times right now, Bradley Haley had a heck of a lap time, even though with a little bit of help of slipstream of the draft, and a 44.84 compared to Simonik's 45.03. So this race is not over yet. Through the Parabolica they go again. It is still Simonic in that 254 GT being hunted down by Bradley Haley in that 428 Ford GT. Down the pit straight they go, utilizing a little bit of slipstream. Hopefully Haley can close in that gap before they make their way to the Retofilia chicanes.
He's trying, but it just seems like he's a little too far back when they get to this pit straight. That is Scott McGarvey, second in the LMP2s behind them, having to give a little bit of a wait, but now he'll swing around the outside of Curva Grande.
Great battling right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out with a few minutes left in the race.
This is really the closest battle that we've got currently, at least in any of the three classes, because LMP1 and LMP2 have once again spread apart, as it looks like Mike Young is actually going to split our leaders just for a bit. Oh, and Young dives back in. Thought for sure he would try to get in front of him for the second Lesmo. Now he goes on by, and Simonic still holding just that half a second gap. And Dallas Pataska has had something happen. He is falling down positions. I think another cut course penalty.
I think so again.
It was in De La Roja, so let's see if we can find it here. And it was the first apex that he cut. Yeah, you'll see it right here. Watch this. Way too much.
Just way too much curving right there. That's going to cost that penalty big time for Dallas Pataska.
Yeah, that loses him out to positions. Go ahead.
Yeah, another thing our viewers may have noted just there, right before that replay, Cyantra just set the fastest lap of the race of 1:31.287, and I do want to keep an eye on him. He's obviously not in contention for the race win anymore as he kicks up a bit of dirt. He's down in 5th place, but if there is fuel concern for a couple of the drivers ahead of him, at the rate he is going, a podium might not be out of the question.
Curious. Like I said, 9 minutes left to go, so it is getting down to the dying stages where we'll finally see who can make it and who can't. Most of the drivers, though, did pass that 30-minute mark, so I suspect that we shouldn't see anybody fall afoul of too badly, unless maybe someone got damaged, and that can hurt your fuel mileage in these cars.
Battle for P3 between Paul Darling and Stephen McGarvey has not let up yet. They're now making their way through De La Rocha right now. Darling still holds on to that position of P3, but McGarvey still is all over the back bumper. He takes a peek, shows his nose to the first Lesmo right now. As they make their way out of there towards the second Lesmo, Darling still holding on to that position right now. 45.23 for McGarvey compared to Paul Darling's 45.51. Out of the second Lesmo they go. McGarvey didn't have a good exit off, so that gave Darling a little bit of pulling away now as they make their way toward the start.
Meanwhile, Kevin Santana, our AM Championship contestant, or whatever you want to call him, is trying to pick a battle with Dave Hill. This is for 7th position. The car they're going by is a lapped car. That's Samuel Scott that they're going by. Through the Ascari chicane now. Kevin Santana not able to make an attack on Dave Hill, but still holds him honest as they come towards Parabolica.
Great.
You know who we really haven't gave a shout out to at all today is Billy Smith. You mentioned Joey, he hasn't won in a while in LMP2. I mean, I know his race hasn't been worth watching at all because he's just been dominating, but well, give him credit for what he's been doing.
Yeah, second round of the season is the only one that he's won, despite being third in the points. Now, he's gotten a few podiums here and there, but Billy Smith really hasn't done too well when he's had opportunities to win. Something has gone wrong, either out of his control, his own mistakes. Today, like you pointed out, he's well clear of his competition. It's only 6 minutes to go. At this point, I'd say he's his own worst enemy. All he has to do is bring it home.
Don't get complacent, guys. I mean, like I say, we've only had 2 retirements throughout the whole race. And it's not exactly the most taxing circuit to drive. We've seen in so many races before on the Global SimRacing Channel, we enter the closing moments and all heck breaks loose as drivers just lose their focus a little bit. Looks like we have had a pass with Stephen McGrath ahead of Paul Darwin now.
And again, championship implications. When you've only got 3 points separating you, just this one swap of positions can have dramatic effects. And they're going to be split up by Andra momentarily as Paul Darling has to let the LMP run through, and then is going to have to let Mark Schindel by. As all this has been happening, I was going to say Dallas Pataska is catching them back up again, but he's headed into the pits another time. Now, why is Pataska in?
Didn't he have that very short stop you mentioned earlier?
You know, I think
out
you're
of
right.
fuel.
Running a strange 2-stop strategy here, maybe.
5.1 Pickens, 5.1 second pit stop for him. He just needed a splash and go pretty much. Unfortunately for him, that is not going to help him with his run. He's still got 5 minutes to go, but that's going to drop him at least 1 or 2 positions.
And one of the cars you see blasting by him on the pit straight right there is Jason DeVries, our race leader, crossing the line with 5.5 minutes to go. That means 4 laps to go around here.
Indeed, that LMP1 leader, 14 seconds ahead of Mike Young. And I think we shouldn't really let that detract from Mike Young. It's impressive that he stayed up with DeVries as long as he did, and it's still looking like he's going to get a handy 2nd place if things stay how they are. Now, what about Andra? Remember, he was playing catch-up, and he's only 7.5 seconds back from Mark Wilson.
Yeah, so he's going to get him.
I was just going to say.
He's catching him about 2 or 3 seconds a lap, and 4 laps left to go. He'll get him. And I wonder how much of that is purely on pace and how much of that is Wilson actually having to conserve fuel. And with that regards, I'm a little concerned for Brandon Garcia, because Mike Young in 2nd could pit and probably not lose a whole lot of it, but Garcia pit, he's got a few cars back.
We're hopping on board now with Wilson to see if we can hear any lift and coast. Oh, actually, we're on Andra. Now we're on board with Wilson. So let's see if this Porsche is doing any lift and coast to try and get him to the end a little bit. He's certainly taking a lot of curb heading through De La Roja, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did cut the course through the Recophelio chicane before. That cut a little bit of that time as well.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but Daniel Gualti did get back out on course in his running, but he's the last of the LMP1s. He's, in fact, in the midst of the LMP2 class right now.
There's no worse time to have a bad day than when everyone else has a good time.
Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself. As we continue to listen to Wilson, doesn't sound like he's saving fuel. This seems to be as fast as he can go. Andra now down to 6 seconds, but he's running out of laps here. He's got to hustle.
He is. I think he can do it.
I think it's going to be tight from the quick mental math that I'm doing in my head. Andra, as we watch him, don't forget the battle for the lead in the GTEs. Simonic and Haley. It is 4 tenths between them. It's been hovering about 3 tenths for a little bit here and there. And the bad news for Haley Taylor is I don't think, from what we've seen, I don't think he can get tricky with it and try to use a slingshot to get by him on the last lap. I don't think the draft is powerful enough.
Not right now at the moment. He needs to be right on, or Haley needs to be right on the back bumper of Simonic through the Parabolica in order to even possibly have a chance to slingshot. But right now, he's not just been close enough at all when coming out of the Parabolica as they make their way down to De La Rocha, the chicanes, as they're coming through there. They got to be careful through here because they've been quite well, but that small mistake of just going over too much of that curb could cost you a cut course penalty. Through the first Lesmo they go, both of them still nose to tail for the most part. These two have been battling all race, and it's been a great show to watch. Coming through the second Lesmo, Haley not able to get a good run out of there. Simonic was able to pull away just a few tenths in front of Haley as they're making their way down towards Ascari.
And you could tell that these guys are pushing, as you mentioned, just dipping the wheels off into the gravel. Nobody willing to give it an inch, and Haley is making sure he pushes Simonic the whole way down to the checkered flag, making Alex earn this one if he wants to take the win. The good news is for Haley that he is ahead of both of the cars that are ahead of him in the points. That's McGarvey and Darling, but it's not by many positions.
And should be 2 laps left to go for these drivers as they come across the line, providing they don't get lapped by Jason DeVries, who's not far behind them, who's coming through the Parabolica right now, and the white flag is going to go in the air for the 19 car.
I actually think they are going to be caught by DeVries.
Yeah, he is. So this is going to be the final lap for that battle in front of DeVries here.
No confusion this time, by it is for sure the white flag here at Monza, as Jason DeVries chases down our 2 leaders. Oh, and did Haley cut the course? Haley is slow.
He is slowing down. I think he gave a little bit of too much way for Jason DeVries, and I think that's going to cost him. He gets so late on the brakes though to De La Rocha. I think Simonic went a little bit too hard on the curbs right there, so we got to be careful, keep an eye on that as well. I think he's okay as they're going through the first Lesmo. He's not slowing down at all.
Are Schindel and DeVries respecting this battle for the lead here?
They might be.
I have a feeling they could have easily passed these 2 by now. Whoa, 3 wide. There they go. No, they're just going to blast by them. They just don't want to get in the way of a battle, so they are going to go ahead. And it doesn't look like Simonic or Haley is going to lose pace. So DeVries is a couple of turns away from winning this race, but who is going to win GTE right behind them? Because Haley has Simonic's draft.
Yes, he did. He had a great run through Ascari, now heading down towards the straightaway, towards the Parabolica. This is it. This is all Haley needs to do.
And guys, I'm sorry, we have to go to our overall leader because Jason DeVries is going to win at Monza. Another notch on the belt for the number 19 car. Now let's go to that GTE battle.
I think it's going to be pretty easy to see. Alex Simonic will take home another win here at Monza. Bradley Haley did all he can to take home, but will second place here today at Monza.
And Billy Smith, it has been a long way since his last win. I don't think quite as long as the win before that for Billy. He certainly had his fair share of droughts despite his dominance when we first came and started covering Autobahn. With a 5-second lead, Scott McGarvey doesn't look to be threatening today. Both of them, though, will gain points on the points leader of Jason Girard. But today, the champagne is going to be sprayed by Billy Smith, the number 90 1 wins here in round 10 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. That is going to wrap things up for us here, but only momentarily. We'll come back with a post-race show, which will include driver interviews as well as the unofficial results. And on screen, don't forget, we'll have all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. We just watched round 10 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Jason DeVries gets another win, most winningest of the LMP1 drivers so far this season. He was really on a tear. Mike Young follows him home in second. This is really one of the more impressive drives that I've seen out of Mike. He was not too far behind, only 14 seconds back after an hour from Jason DeVries. That's pretty good. Brandon Garcia finishes in third to round out the podium. Mark Wilson will get fourth with Cy Andra making a recovery drive and at least getting himself up to fifth at the end of the race, but still that is going to be a heavy point swing in favor of Jason DeVries. Lionel Duprat finishes in sixth, and we don't see it on this one, but Jen Gibralti came home in seventh in the LMP1. Sam?
Billy Smith returned to the top step of a podium, and what a place to do it at here at Monza in LMP2. Scott McGarvey came home in second place, and Carter Candina will also get to join them up on the podium there. Ross Booth, not so lucky, he finishes fourth, and we skip over Daniel Grolty down to Mark Schindel, fifth in the LMP2 class. Mark Schindel had an entertaining race today, as did the guy behind him, James Stacey. Behind them, Kevin O'Keefe, Scott Corbin, Alan Hessebeck and Sean Rees, and much further down on the order you'll see Sheldon Rosenbaum, one of our very few DNFs today.
Alex Samana continues another great win here at Monza, though he'll be followed by Bradley Haley, and Stephen McGarvey was able to hold off Paul Darling, as Paul Darling will take home the fourth position in class. Ryan Huff with a great finish, finishing in the fifth position, followed by Dave Hill and Kevin Santana, your highest GTE AM racer, as he will do well in seventh position. Dean Moe will come home in the eighth position, followed by Leif Peterson in ninth, and Dallas Patasco will round out your top 10 in the GTE class. Paul Lindsay having an up and down race today, as he will finish in 11th in class, followed by Mark Kradowski and Tim McLeish in the 13th position. In the 14th position in class will be Robert Shalenka, followed by, right behind him, we go through the rest of the field right now.
31st is Robert Sklanka and Christopher Sherburne following him in 32nd. Dale Green, 33rd, and Samuel Scott in 34th. Sheldon Rosenbaum, one of our unfortunate DNFs today, in 35th, with Matt Owens 36th and Emmanuel Ehere in 37th. That's going to round them out. So why don't we go to our winner in the LMP2s? That was Billy Smith, as we pull him in, hopefully able to pull him away from his celebrations, because boy, has it been a while, Billy. The second round to this one, winless, but I think you broke your duck.
Yeah, I guess I got to take advantage of Jason's misfortune, but I'll definitely take it. This update, I think, something about it really suits me. I just really enjoyed this race.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to suit you. Now, Scott McGarvey did keep you a little bit honest. He was only about 5 or 6 seconds back at the end, and obviously he was keeping pretty close tabs on you. Did he ever make you worry, knowing how consistent he tends to be in that car?
At the beginning, it definitely did. I mean, his pace is right there, like you said, and I was just hoping to be able to break the draft. And he stayed. I mean, I got to be honest, I was a little bit nervous at the start, and he stayed right there with me. But I think we started getting the traffic, and I was able to break that draft. And I think Carter was back there putting some pressure on him as well. So, I mean, the whole back and forth with the lap cars. I mean, I would get away from it a little bit. I think he would close back up. So. Yeah, I didn't really let up the whole race.
Now, this is the first time that Autobahn has raced with the new lighting, with the sun going down and getting pretty dark at the end, I must say. Did that affect the handling of the car at all, or was it pretty consistent?
Well, since we have it set up for winter, it doesn't really get that hot during the day, and the sun stays pretty low, so it doesn't change a whole lot, although you can definitely tell a change in the grip levels throughout the different practice and qualifying sessions. I have to say that even though I do some real world racing, I would tend to cheat a little bit on iRacing and gravitate toward those static shadows, and you definitely have to find those breaking points as you would in real life now.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that is definitely a little bit of a game changer here with this. Well, congratulations on taking another win. You are still third in the points coming into this, so this certainly brings you back in favor of maybe being able to do something towards the end. We'll see if you and Scott can finally bring down Jason Girard. We hope to see you in a couple weeks' time.
I think so. Maybe I can do some damage now. Thanks again, guys.
All right, that was Billy Smith, our winner in the LMP2s. And up next, we've got Sam with our winner in the LMP1s, Jason DeVries.
Yes, Jason, first off, congratulations on your win here today.
Thanks, Sam. Good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I gotta be honest, I was a little scared for you on the final lap there. You had a clean race, even with all the lap traffic all race long, and it looked like there were a couple of 3 wide scenarios in lap traffic. So I guess even being a leader around here, a couple of heavy moments with the lap car.
Yeah, a little bit. I just tried to make sure that the 3 wides were on the straightaways. Bill had plenty of room. I saw the battle between Alex and Bradley, and it was just incredible watching it throughout the race. So I wanted to just make sure to show respect to those guys and catch them on a straightaway so we could make a pass. But even when we went 3 wide, I just made sure to give Mark and those guys plenty of room. So we all came out the other side in one piece.
Now, how difficult is it to drive a car like this at Monza? I assume you have low downforce settings in your car because, that's something we see here at Monza. People take the downforce, they flatten the winds out. Does that make this car hard to drive?
It can. It just depends on how hot the track temp is. We got pretty fortunate running pretty late in the afternoon, so there's tons of grip on the track. So Ascari and the Lesmos are usually the problem areas, but we really had plenty of grip, so it wasn't that big of an issue. But if we ran this race at high noon in the summer, I could see that being problematic for us.
Unfortunately, like you say, that wasn't the case today. So how are you feeling about your championship chances following today's performance?
Just one race at a time. Gotta show up and perform and keep the good finishes going, and just make sure I don't have a huge negative points day. All the point stuff is just it's indicative of your season as a whole. So you just gotta take care of the little components of that season, and when it all comes together, if you do the right things, you end up with a pretty good result.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to talk to us, Jason. We wish you the best of luck in the upcoming races.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Take care, guys.
That was Jason DeVries, winner in the LMP1s. Next, we've got our winner in the GTE Pro class. Taylor is talking to Alex Simonic.
We're here with Alex Simonic. Alex, you had a little bit of an interesting night tonight. You were having to battle with Bradley Haley. Tell us how that was for you tonight here at Monza.
Yeah, me and Brad have been trying to figure out a way that we can race together in this series. It's always been, we qualify close to each other, and then either he makes a mistake and gets back in the pack, or I crash out. But yeah, this race is really fun. I needed to juke him at the start because this track is all about draft and low downforce, so as soon as I juked him at the start and got about 0.3 before turn 1, I knew that it was smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, it would. There were a couple of close instances where he did get back on your back bumper a couple of times. Were you nervous about maybe him trying to maybe make a move going into one of the chicanes for you, or you just felt confident enough that your car would be able to handle that?
Yeah, there was a few times where I would be exiting the last corner and he would go from 0.4 back to 0.3, and I knew that as soon as you get close to the braking zone, he's going to be side by side or very close to it. So I kind of had to straddle the middle of the track, which is kind of a noob thing to do, but it's what you got to do to defend your position.
Of course. And with next in 2 weeks' time, we're going to Silverstone. How are you being prepared, ready for that race as we closer to the end of the season to help you try to gain closer to the points championship?
Silverstone should be a very fun track. It's very flat and very fast, so the Ford's going to suit it a lot there. It's also it's a lot smaller than this track, so lap traffic is going to play a huge role with the next race.
All right, of course, looking forward to seeing you there at Silverstone, and again, congratulations on your win here at Monza.
Thank you very much.
That was Alex Imonic, your winner in the GTE class.
We have one more driver to talk to real quick. Fifth place finisher in LMP1, Andra. The biggest thing we want to know is what happened at the start of the race. You just started dropping back immediately, Sai.
Well, what happened was going into the second chicane, Jason got on the brakes a little bit earlier than I thought, and I kind of outbraked myself a little bit, carrying extra speed in there. And I locked up, I went wide of the chicane, and I nailed one of those sausage curbs, and the under tray got damaged. That's why I fell back really quick, and then I had to go pit early. And that's ended up costing me my race.
We suspected it was something like that. We just didn't see the exact incident. You did manage to recover to fifth. So what was going through your head when that initially happened? Were you immediately starting to think of alternate strategies, or what do you do in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. I knew that with the damaged floor, I'd be burning more fuel, and obviously my lap times would be slower. So I wouldn't be able to make the one-stop strategy. So what I had to do was I had to make the window for a two-stop, and that's why I stayed up for another 2 or 3 laps. Then came into the pit, so I knew I could make to the end with fuel to spare. Because finishing is probably better getting some points than nothing.
Yeah, always. Now, at the end of the race, you were really chasing down, let's see, I'm trying to remember who it was exactly, Mark Wilson there, and you were just shy of getting yourself into fourth. Did you think you could get him at the end?
Oh, absolutely. I think I just needed a little bit more luck in traffic on the penultimate laps. I lost about 2 seconds due to a couple of GTEs racing each other through the Lesmos, but it really came down to I should have been a little bit quicker in the box, or I should have been a little bit quicker in this situation. Those kind of seconds add up, or I should have gone into the pits a lap earlier when I had damage. Any one of those things could have gotten me a second, then I could have gotten my fourth place points instead of fifth. But, hindsight's 20/20.
I was just about to say ifs, ands, or buts are full in racing, and unfortunately, there's always what ifs to ask yourself when the season is done. Still, you got a little bit of ground to make up. You got some races. Do it. I hope to see you back again to see if you can catch up to Jason.
Thank you.
That was Sai Andra, fifth place here today at Monza, and it's going to close things up for us here on GSRC. Of course, a big thank you goes out to the Autobahn crew, as well as John Omer. John, of course, does a lot of work with all of his helpers behind the scenes to make this thing possible. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_RAM. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page. Make sure to hit that big red button that says subscribe, because then you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, they are going to Silverstone. That'll be Monday, January 7th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. So we got a little bit of a break here for Christmas and New Year's. So to all of you out there, definitely have a happy holidays until we see you again for Autobahn. We've also got upcoming races for other series those listed on the screen, which will take place before the holidays. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.